which defines the geometry of sun ray from sun to earth where we are receiving on the panel. Also, we have seen if a panel is tilted because we cannot keep it flat. What will be the change in the angle and how we can calculate the radiations. So now we have to actually use that fundamental, and we have to see how exactly we can use it. So solar collectors, again, collector mean both thermal as well as PV. The geometry applies same to them. So from morning to evening, we want to collect the maximum solar radiation. So as I've said, tracking is one thing, but tracking will add extra money. So even we have to track it, we need optimization. So for tracking, we need optimization, I mean adjustment throughout the day. But then most of the panels will be steady state. They will be fixed. The inclination will be fixed, position will be fixed. So for that, we have to find out a point where this maximum collection is done. So for that, obviously, angle of incidence that we have already defined, and this will be the angle between the direct and the normal to the solar collector, and corresponding radiation we can call it as IB. B we are choosing because to avoid the confusion between direct and diffuse. For diffuse, we will use D, and then we can use beam, meaning direct radiation IB. So obviously, I, that is the incident radiation on the collector surface, now can be given by IB cos theta. So this theta is changing because the position of the sun is changing. As far as this IB is concerned, either we can estimate it. There are empirical formulas, there are tables which are given, because see, these radiations are not going to change really even for hundreds of years, because considering the lifetime of Earth and Sun. So people have again observed it, and apart from that, obviously uh, you can what to say, estimate it with certain empirical models, and we can measure it. So if you want everyday data, then these things can be measured, both direct as well as diffuse. That we will learn about that at the end of this particular lecture. So the point is relationship, the complete relationship. What we saw a few slides back, it was a shortened relationship. So this is the complete relationship for cos theta. Now, obviously, when we are talking about the fixed panels, we have got some situations. First situation for comparison again, let us say that we don't know any optimization, and we think that we will keep the panel flat, and we will find out what will be the what is the radiation. So in that case, there is no tilting of the panel, so there is no inclination of the panel itself. So obviously the angle beta has to be 0. So if you substitute this beta, then you can find out what is the value of this cos theta from this. But we will understand, and even I have told you that keeping a panel flat is not going to optimize, and I have explained that as we live in northern hemisphere, the sun is hardly going to come into the northern hemisphere. So logically, with a common sense, we can understand that if our panel is due south, that is facing towards the south, we are going to get the maximum radiation. And as we have to fix the what is say position, definitely this has to be due south, and then we know that the sun variation will be from east to west. So that symmetry we can use around the our angle. So when the collector is facing due south, the azimuth angle, I think last time I said that in one of the slide I marked azimuth angles as alpha. Actually, it should be gamma. I have made the correction, so when you get the slides, you will get with that correction. So the azimuth angle is the rotation, right? So as now we are using this symmetry and we are making it due south, the gamma becomes 0, and then this is the expression that we can have. So you can please note down the second expression, which is for situation 2. We will be using that expression in the slides to come. So cos theta is now dependent on delta, that is a declination angle, phi, and the beta. So beta is what is the inclination from the surface, okay, angle which is made from the horizontal panel, horizontal plane. We are not going to keep the panel horizontal. So the point in the next slide would be, we have to find out what should be this value of beta, how much the panel should be inclined to the earth surface. You must have all seen that the panels are inclined, right? Now, by the way, a general tip and trick. So suppose you are lost somewhere, okay, and you don't know the you don't know the direction, and let us say you are around the solar panel installation. So you can see that wherever it is faced, that direction is the south direction. So you can fix, even if you don't have the north star, that is the pole star, then probably you can fix the direction of the your direction if you have some panel installed over there. And of course, when you are in northern hemisphere, in southern it will be facing northwards. Okay, so I hope you have written down this particular situation to cos theta formula. So now we can, with this we can find out the optimal angle for the fixed collector or permanent collector. Now we know that for a location, the solar radiation will be maximum at omega equal to 0, because at that point the radiation will be perpendicular to panel. But we have the sun rotation going on, and that's why east to west is the rotation. So the point is this symmetry, as I've said, we are going to use. So to find out this optimal angle, what we can do is the surface azimuth angle, that is gamma, and the surface inclination angle, these two angles should be optimized. Now we already have this expression for the cos theta. So now what we can do is the complete expression we can differentiate with respect to gamma and beta, because this is what we are going to optimize. However, we know that as it is going to be what I say, symmetric around omega equal to 0, then we can substitute omega equal to 0. And further, suppose we are putting this installed panel in the, we are installing it in the northern hemisphere. Again, we know that gamma is also equal to 0. So you can take these two factors into account. You can get the expression for cos theta in terms of beta, phi, and delta, and then you can differentiate it, and then you can get the condition for the optimal inclination, and it comes out to be beta equal to phi minus delta. Now, what is this phi? So phi is the latitude, and then delta is the declination angle. So the collector has to be perpendicular to sun ray, so that we obviously get the maximum angle. Now, out of these two angles, phi and delta, phi is fixed. It is a latitude angle. It is an angle defined by a place, so that is not going to change. However, declination angle delta is going to change every day. We know that its limit is between plus to minus 23.5. So over 365, although it would be minor variation in a day, but still it would be what you call it as it is going to change. Now, suppose we are going for a fixed collector. Over the year, what will be the average value of this delta? That has to be equal to 0, because plus to minus 23.5, so they cancel out each other. Then if we are taking the average value of beta, phi is constant, so it doesn't change. So delta becomes 0, and that's why you end up having the beta average should be equal to the latitude angle, and that is the reason you will find out that the angle at which we are fixing these collectors is equal to latitude. It means what? Suppose we are in Rourkela, we'll be fixing the panels about 22 degrees from the earth. Now you try to understand the implication of these whatever we have discussed. So here we are optimizing first of all for finding out maximum power throughout the year, right? Point number one. Second thing is, obviously, as you are moving towards the equator, this phi will become smaller and smaller. On equator, it will be absolutely 0. So on equator, your panels would be flat, but as you go towards northern side or northern pole, it will become the tilt will increase. Okay. Now imagine if you are in Leh Ladakh. the inclination will be much higher. And then you go for somewhere in Europe, Russia, the inclination will be much higher. Now, what is the problem over here? Of course, when you are going to, so we require some space for infrastructure, right? We talked about that the land cost itself is a part of this, and it is going to affect. Now the problem is, suppose this beta is higher, then obviously the length of the shadow will be much higher. So you do not wish that this shadow will be casting on some other panel. So you should maintain enough distance between the two panels such that due to the shadow, the other panel doesn't lacks in the power production. So now what happens is your land requirement goes on increasing as you are increasing the beta, or as you are moving towards the northern hemisphere. So these are the points. And the third one would be, now let us say, see, we are designing it for a complete year. That's why we take the average of this delta over the year. But let us say I have got two houses, and one of the houses is used as the second house for maybe for for few months only, maybe just May and July. So now if I am installing the power solar system for that house, which I'll be using only for 2 months, then instead of taking this average delta to be 0, what I am going to do is I'll be taking delta as the average of these 2 months, because I have to optimize for these two particular months. So obviously your beta would be different in that case. So when you substitute this beta, you get the value of cos theta to be cos delta cos omega for the optimal angle. And this is how you can, if you can get the value of cos theta, you can find out the value of the incident radiations and so on. I've already talked enough about the sun tracking. Typically, there are two types: single axis and two axis. Single axis means it will track only one, either east-west, or it will be what you call north-south. Now, obviously, you can understand that in a day, east-west movement is more. So obviously, we'll be tracking, say, when it is a single axis, it will be east-west tracking. We will not be tracking north-south. Then the two axis, there it is tracking both ways. So obviously it is more accurate, but then you require one more additional motor, and the cost will go up. So this tracking can go up to about 30% more energy. Of course, we are talking about the terrestrial modules, PV modules. These are not concentrated modules. So obviously, when we use concentrated modules, then this tracking, especially two-axis tracking, becomes more economical. So normally on terrestrial applications, you will not see any tracking. However, with a concentrated type of module, if it is used, you will find out that both the trackings are used. So we have seen about the geometry. We know what is the optimal angles and how it affects the solar power collection on the panel. Now, the second part of this is how to estimate, or if we cannot estimate, rather measurement would be better. We can go for the measurement of radiation. So first thing what we have to understand is the peak sunshine hours. Of course, the problem here is that the sun rises somewhere around 6 o'clock and sets around 6 o'clock in the evening. Now, we don't get uniform radiation throughout. It goes on increasing. It is at the peak during sometime in the noon, and then again it recedes. So, if we take this value of insolation, it would be varying, and for some certain calculations, this is a very odd thing, because you will find out that yeah, I will show you this thing, the diagram, and you can see that this particular calculating the area would be very difficult part, because this area will be equal to the total solar insolation that what we are receiving. So the point is that here we may get 0.1 or something. Here we can get 0.5, and let us say here we get about 1 kilowatt per meter square or something like that. So these 1 kilowatt meter square would be available for even in certain cases it might be available more than one. So instead of having such a Gaussian kind of distribution or whatever, what we can do is we can flatten the profile. I think you know the concept of flattening the profile from power systems. We flatten the load profile so that the generation would be constant. So instead of having this, what we can say is that I get 1 kilowatt per meter square. I get 1 kilowatt per meter square for these many hours. So obviously, this let us say if it is 12 hours and we get total some radiation, so we can multiply and we can get the total number. So that much of radiation we get for these many number of hours. Let us say 6. So if here we get 6 kilowatt total, these two are the equivalent of the diagram. Here also we get a total of 6 kilowatt. Now what is the benefit here? We know that flat 1 kilowatt we are getting at around 6 for 6 hours. Okay, so this is useful for the system design. However, practically things will be different, but we are not really worried about that now. So this is called as the flattening of the profile. So whenever we get a data for a particular place for designing the system, what we are going to ask, we are not going to get this particular curve because which would be very complex. Instead of that, we simply asked how many peak sunshine hours. So at some places, maybe in hilly places, it may be 3 hours. In the plateau, like Raurkela, we can have 6 to 7 hours or 8 hours, or equator, it would be much higher. Okay, so this is the major data that we will be asking for, that how many peak sun hours we get. So simply multiply it by 1 kilowatt per meter square, you get the total radiation. So next, what we want is, of course, we don't do it through this exercise daily. There are maps available, there are resources available, but how these are calculated, of course, empirical estimation is there, some recorded data is already there, which is average. So can we calculate it on a particular day? Yes, it is possible. So please understand the title of this particular slide. First of all, it's a horizontal surface. So we are not talking about inclined surface. It is a horizontal surface. Later, once we know what is the cos theta, we can multiply this value of this whatever we are getting here on horizontal surface by that cos theta, and we will get the radiation on the inclined plane. Now next is monthly average. See, the sun position daily, it will be changing from east to west, but north to south it will be moreover constant over a month. So what we can do is we can take a middle day of the month and we can say that it is moreover same for that particular month. Daily global average radiation. So month average we are making it to daily, and then we are calculating global radiation. As I've said, it is diffuse plus direct plus albedo. So this HGA by HOA is equal to A plus B SA by S max, and this HGA is what we are calculating, monthly averaged. That's why it is A stands for average, G stands for global radiation. Here O is actually 0. It's not O, it's 0, and 0, we have reserved it for extraterrestrial solar radiation. So obviously this particular quantity you already know. Now remaining are S, that is the daily sunshine hours, and what is the maximum sunshine hour or maximum day length for a particular given location. As far as A and B is concerned, these are constant and these are again observed, and you can get that list of this A and B constant for a particular place. So these are again estimated from the observations. So in this case, you can see that every city, we already have these values of A and B, and you can get it from the from a data book. So roughly, if you talk about in India, we have somewhere Pune is here 0.31 to 0.43. We have got Ahmedabad, which is 0.28 to 0.48. Nagpur is somewhere around 0.27 to 0.5. So roughly the number is 0.3 and 0.45. Okay, just to get the idea. You can also see that as we are moving down, the A is going down, B is going up. Okay, so that's why it is very much dependent on the place what we are talking about. So how to determine this? The HOA can be determined, can be estimated from the instantaneous value of the extraterrestrial radiation. Kindly please note down this particular formula. So this H0 we can find out by integrating the cos theta for the value of S. So cos theta, we can substitute our expression. We know how to calculate the value of this ST, that is by multiplying S into the expression what we have given. Now again, we are always talking the time in terms of hours. So this has to be converted to time in angles, radians, wherever is appropriately required. So this conversion, especially for dt, we can have it as 180 by 15 pi into d omega. So this formula today we are going to use to solve one quick numerical. Of course, you have got calculators. So once you get these values of delta, phi, and everything, you can put it in integration in your calculator, because this will be definite. And of course, you require to find out sunrise and sunset time as well. Then the rest of the things are straightforward, and we can find out the value of H0. Okay, I hope you have noted down the formula. Can we go ahead? Sufyan Khan. Can we go ahead?
Present sir. Present sir.
प्रेजेंट सर नहीं, मैं क्वेश्चन जो बोल रहा हूँ उसका आंसर दे दीजिए. कैन वी गो अहेड? Have you noted the formula or not?
Yes sir.
Okay, so I'll be asking questions to you. Okay, fine. So we can substitute it, and we can adjust the formula, and you can note down the last one. When we substitute everything, we get this the second one. The second one you can note, that is after the adjustments, even after the integration is done, because we know the sunrise and sunset will be omega s and minus omega s. So we can integrate it, and this is what we can get. Of course, you can do the integration as well. No issue. You can use this formula as well. Now here, one care, as I said, this omega s has to be in appropriate values. So omega s multiplying should be in radians, otherwise it should be in degrees. Now this S, that what we are taking is in watt per meter square. So obviously what H0 we are calculating is also watt. Now it will be watt hour meter square, because now we are multiplying this with the time. Okay. So it will be watt hour per meter square. So the second formula, I think you have noted. Otherwise, you can use the first one as well. Only you have to do the what you have to do is the integration. So one and the same thing. Anyway, calculator is going to do that for you. So just be careful about the units over here. Nothing else. Okay. So Sufyan, can we proceed?
1 second.
Khirod Kumar Nayak.
Yes sir, you can proceed.
Okay, fine. So now I told you that this is a monthly average daily global, right? So the point is average, obviously what we think 30 days a month. So on 15th of the 15th day of the month, we are going to take the average. But then again, of course, you know, people have done some calculations, and then they think, then they see that these days is not exactly when we have to take average, the 15th or 16th cannot be the day. So depending upon the month, it slightly changes, and then you can see that It is somewhere around 15. Only June is the 11th. This is again based on the observed data. December 10 is another extreme one, but apart from that, moreover, it's 15, 16 or something like that. Okay, so we will take it as 15 or 16. Okay, roughly. Only July and December, you will remember that it is 10 or 11. So let us start calculating. So the example is we have to find out monthly average daily global radiation. Fine, and that is for Nagpur during the month of March. I think we have found out something for in last lecture. Can you check your notebook? Was it for the average for the month of March?
No, sir,
Remember
November.
that for Nagpur?
For November, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
no,
for
anyway.
Nagpur, it is March, sir. Average.
That's what I'm asking. Now we are talking about March. So this is the average for March. So I think you already know it is March 16, right? So n is equal to 75. So I think you have already calculated delta. What is the value?
Minus 2.4.
Minus 2.4. Yes. So you have the value. So don't recalculate it. That's my point. Okay. So delta is already with you. I think omega s is also you calculated somewhere around 89. We calculated the sunshine hour for that particular
Yes, sir.
day.
Yes,
Right? Okay, day length was roughly around 12 hours. Okay, fine. So everything is already done. So now next thing is we can use this particular formula, right? So this formula is also, this is after the integration. So now what are the values that you are going to put? This S is the extraterrestrial. So we know that value 1.367 or 1.37 you can take. Omega S, now this 89 you have to convert into the radians. Phi is already known, 21.06 it is given. I don't know why I have written 21.15. Delta you have already calculated, and omega S is in degrees, it is around 89, right? So these all values are known to you. Can you find out the value of H0? So do it quickly. Rakesh. Are you there, Rakesh?
Sir.
No? Rakesh?
Sir.
So you will tell me the answer, right? So anybody has answer? Can you tell me?
10.529.
10.529. Yeah. Now this what we are talking about in, I think, kilowatt, right? Or what? 10 point
Kilowatt.
kilowatt, right? So of course you can multiply with certain numbers and you can bring it to the joules. Fine. So if you are multiplying roughly by 3600, roughly it will be what, 35 megajoule per meter square a day, right? Roughly. So no need. If you are getting in kilowatt, that's fine. Okay, because that is what we are more interested in. I just merely converted. So are you all of you getting 10 point something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So H0 is roughly 10 point something. Now the point is, if you remember, we want the global ones, right? So for calculating the global ones, if you remember the formula, it was HGA divided by H0A. Now you will use H0A, which is in kilowatt, in kilowatt. It is equal to A plus B into the S on that day divided by the S max, right? So A and B for Nagpur is now directly given to you. So A and B is, you can read it in the numerical, that A is 0.27, B is 0.5, and average sunshine hour is also given to you, that is 9.2, whereas day length what you have calculated was 11.87. So that factor is S divided by S max, that is 9.8 divided by 8.7, 11.87. So you have got all these numbers, and what HGA you can get is roughly around 22. So if you divide it by, so what will be the number in kilowatt per meter square per day again? So 10 point something has to be multiplied by whatever is on this factor. Yeah, what's the number?
6.92.
6.92. Okay, so you can understand that we are getting 6.92 kilowatt, roughly 7. Let us take 7.7 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, per day. So let us say, just let us try to understand this. Suppose then I put the panels of a size 1 meter square. I will get how much? About 7 kilowatts per day. And let us say the efficiency of the panel is 27. How much I am going to produce? 0.2 into 7, that is 1.4 kilowatt of the electrical power, roughly talking. Okay, roughly talking. So this is how these things can be important. Now, obviously, what we have calculated is the global one. So in this global, we have got 3 components. It is your direct and diffused and the albedo. And if we take it, roughly, already I have told that the 10% of direct radiation will be the diffused radiation. So of course we can do that assumption, but definitely we can calculate it, right? We can estimate it. Please do not write these formulas, because these are the, what you call it, empirical. This keeps on changing. This is from one reference. If you search for journal papers, you will get variety of formulas. But my point is that this is what I want to show is, whatever the empirical formula you get, this is the factor. So this diffused divided by HGA. HGA you have calculated, right? So you can multiply that with whatever is on the right hand side, and you can see that it's an empirical formula, but it contains something called as KT. And this KT is because clouds will be the major factor which will be diffusing the radiations. So this is taken into account with using this index called as Sky Monthly Average Clearness Index. Okay, so this will be the ratio of monthly average global radiation to the monthly average daily extraterrestrial radiation. So this KT you can get again from certain observations, and this depends on what is the value of omega as well. So for particular values of omega higher than 81, the factor changes, and it is less than that, even the factor can be, the equation can be different, factor remains the same. Okay, so point is that based on this empirical, you can also find out what is the diffuse radiation. So from where you can get this data? Of course, all the agencies, respective agencies are measuring this. So this is the map which we got from the NASA website for the cloud fraction. So how much cloudy that sky at a particular moment, and you can get the scale from 0 to 1. So white means it was absolutely cloudy, and here you can see there are no clouds. So this cloud fraction, you can get it. Of course, the definition of cloud fraction depends, and NASA itself defines about 5 types of these cloud fractions. Anyway, so you got the idea, right? So now the point is, if we get this, how we are going to find out the monthly averaged hourly global and diffuse radiations. see, now you have noted the difference, right? Earlier it was monthly average daily, and now this is monthly averaged hourly, because obviously daily average would be very different than what will be the hourly average. By the way, speaking of average, I came across a very interesting, what you say, average, sorry, one paradox. It is called as Simpson's paradox. Okay, data interpretation. I think some of you were in my basic electrical lab, if I remember correct. Have I conducted your basic electrical lab? Hello?
No, sir.
No, no, no. Okay, so you are unfortunate. Forget about it. Okay, my point is that how we represent the data, and when we take this average, this particular Simpson paradox comes into picture. You can simply search for Simpson paradox TED. You will understand somehow one basic mistake what we do when we make that assumption and we take the average. Okay, so statistics has got some interesting things, and that's why we can mold it in whatever way we want, and that is where politician takes the advantage of that. Please look at that small video. It's of 5 minutes. Okay, anyway, so daily average we have done. We can do similarly hourly average. So if we want that, we can find out this edging we have already determined, right? Now, this RT is a factor which is given by this long expression. Don't write it. You can get it later. Today we are not going to solve it. So this RT, as it is a hourly, so it depends on the omega and omega s. So this value we need so that we can find out that every hour how it will be, because fundamentally this omega is the hour angle, and that is what is going to change the value of RT. So once you get this factor for every hour, this factor would be changing, and you can multiply that HG and you can find out the value of this. Now again, A and B, earlier we took it as constant for a particular position, but these AB are also dependent on the value of this omega s, and this is going to change, and again people have found out empirically. Again, this is just the example which I am giving. I think if we are again, and we can go for this ID, then this will be the diffuse radiation. We can get this formula, and we can in a similar way we can find out the value of ID as well. So your total radiation will be summation of all these things. So let us try to find out the solar radiation on the tilted surface. So this direct radiation, we get this cos theta by cos theta z. So that we can define it as the factor RB. So you can find out this cos theta z. So when you are substituting this beta equal to 0, that is what the radiation on the flat panel. Of course, we are assuming this gamma to be 0. So this diffuse radiation factor can be 1 plus cos beta by 2, and then reflected, that is the albedo. Albedo can be this rho into 1 minus cos beta by 2. This rho is the property of the, let us say, land surface. If it is reflecting, how much this reflectivity of the surrounding, or let us say the land, and then ultimately we want the total radiation which is on the tilted surface. Now will be addition of all these three. So IB into RB, that is the direct radiation what we get. So it will take care into the inclination. RD will take care of the diffuse radiation, and this both, understand why we are taking this IB and ID, because both are going to get reflected, right? So that's why the addition has to be multiplied by RR, that is the reflected radiation. Now, of course, till recent times, what was happening is the direct and diffused only were taken into account, and that's why we were installing a single junction type of solar cell, which were on one side only. So it was monofacial, you can say. But nowadays, with the advance in the technology, we have bifacial solar cell. So what happens is they can even convert the light which is reflected, because you can imagine the sunlight is coming from the top. So let us say this is the panel we have. So sunlight is coming from the top. So solar cell which are sitting here will convert only that part. But some radiations would be reflecting, and that is a quite significant portion, and our single side panel are unable to do it. But if we go for bifacial, it means we are having the solar cells on both the faces of this panel. So now we have got the solar cells here as well, so they convert both these direct as well as reflected. So that is the advantage. So solar radiation for a particular location, as I've said, can be given by either daily or monthly or even the yearly average, depending upon how you are designing the system. So these data are already available. They are available in various manner. Either you can have the isoflux counter. Isoflux means flux is the intensity. Iso means for the same flux. We are getting these counters. I think such a maps already I have shown you in the previous lecture. You can get the sunshine hour data based on the satellites, based on the terrestrial observation centers. They are spread even in India. Silently we are recording all this data. Also from the satellite we are recording cloud hour data and the coverage. And then these calculations, people have given empirical formulas, and these tables are already also available for us. So you can get that data anywhere you want. Suppose you are using the software. There are certain softwares like PVsyst or the Homer or even many power system design softwares. Now they have this data inbuilt. So whenever you pull a particular location, automatically this data is available to you. Okay, so I think if you remember from our illumination system, whenever we pull a particular fitting, particular luminaire, that flux data and everything was available. So similar thing for a particular location, these things are available to us. But of course, these were all estimations and calculations. We can record this, we can measure this. So for this measurement of solar radiation, we have got two devices. First one is the pyranometer. Okay. So this measures the global as well as the diffuse radiation. How exactly we will be talking about that. Other device would be pyrheliometer. I will come to that quickly, and this will be the end of the lecture. So it doesn't matter what you are measuring and how you are measuring, the principle remains the same: heating proportional to the radiation. So obviously we are converting whatever the heat directly into the electrical energy with the help of certain thermopiles. And then these radiations, once we get this electrical signal, we can get the value of we can estimate the value of the radiation. So let us see how pyranometer works. If we understand pyranometer, the pyranometer is very straightforward. Obviously we require level adjuster so that it is absolutely flat. You can see that there are two domes. Okay, and the light sensor here is the thermocouple we are using as a light sensor, and there are two ends. This is one end and one is connected to this black body. So this black plate actually gets heated whenever the sun rays come into. However, the another one is at a constant temperature. Somehow the temperature is maintained constant. Now, obviously, you can see that as this dome is absolutely open, they are made up of the glass. You are going to receive both the beam that is direct as well as the diffused one. Okay, so this light sensor is sensing both the diffuse as well as the beam radiation. So the heating effect will be the total of these two. Now the point is this black plate. Why we use? For obvious reason that it will take both. It will not allow anything to escape. Now there are two domes, as I have said. These domes are for creating a greenhouse effect. So what happens is there is a vacuum in between these two. Okay, so whenever the sunlight comes in, both convection as well as radiation heat losses are minimized. So we know that when it is coming out, when it and when it gets reflected, it cannot because of the greenhouse effect, and this vacuum in between is going to stop the radiation effect. So the point is we have made this arrangement in such a way that whatever is incoming is getting absolutely absorbed by this, and we are minimizing the losses because of any kind of radiation which is available. Now there is a temperature difference between this end, end number 1 and end number 2, and because of this we have got the Seebeck effect coming into picture, and it creates electricity, it creates some voltage, and based on that difference of the voltage we are going to find out what will be the value of this. So pyranometer. Now so this pyranometer, as I've said, goes for both, right? Beam as well as direct as well as diffuse, but it can also be used for finding out the diffuse radiation. Now this is done when you avoid the direct radiation which is falling on the sensor. Now in this case you are putting one shading ring on that. Now of course you have to understand here that direct diffuse radiation can come from almost 360 degree, whereas direct radiation will come from only one angle. And suppose we are talking of a particular day, the sun movement will be fixed. So if we align our shading ring, so let us say we have got this dome, this sensor, and our shading ring is absolutely aligned to the sun movement. So if I'm changing the angle, so this sun movement will be from here to here. If I align to that path, what is going to happen? I am blocking the direct radiation. So in that case, when the shading ring is active, then whatever the measurement will be only because of the diffuse radiation, because direct is not coming into picture. That shading ring is blocking the direct radiation over here. Okay, so this is how you can use pyranometer for both. Then there is another device measuring the solar radiation, that is with the pyranometer. Now see, earlier you can have both diffuse as well as direct. So if we get the total, we can subtract it and we can do that. But simultaneously measurement is not possible. So we can use another device, and it uses the direct solar radiation. So you see this. So this is the wire towards the measurement, towards this couple. Okay, so we have got two, so we can make the difference. Now you can see that there is a long tube, and from your basic physics knowledge, now you can understand that the radiation is coming over here. So I will go to the schematic so that you can understand. So principle is similar. The only difference is the direct radiation is used. So you can see that this radiation is coming in. Again, we have got the same arrangement over here. Now, as it is a direct radiation, what we want to measure, we are having the 2-axis tracking. So this one is the tracking. So that's why this supply is over here. So this is how the motor and everything is inside there. And so you can do the 2-axis tracking. So everything else is same. Only the arrangement is that we have got a tubular arrangement. So now what happens is, you can understand that this length is helping us. So only direct radiation will come. If there is anything diffuse, it will be blocked by this length of the tube, and these are not going to enter in this. And as we are making use of tracking, this whole tube this inlet is aligned to the sun radiation. So only a narrow beam of this direct radiation is going to reach to the sensor, and all the diffuse would be opted out. Okay, so that's why pyranometer on the same principle, but however it gives us the diffuse radiation. So now you have got direct, you have got diffuse. You can find out the global. You can get the total value of this. But there is one more quantity which still remains. It is how many hours of sunshine is available. So now, of course, earlier we used to put one paper over here. Okay, this is a glass ball, and it is very similar to the experiment that you have done. If you concentrate the sunlight through a lens on a paper, what will happen? It is going to burn, right? So now this burning depends on what is the intensity of the input light that you are getting. So in the morning, you may not burn it, may not burn the paper. However, in the afternoon, when this radiation is enough, you are going to burn it, right? So we can do that, and we can vaguely find out when it started burning and when it ended burning. So depending upon that length of the paper, what we are putting out over here, we can find out the length of the day, which is strong enough to burn it. So we can find out sunshine hour. But if we want more precise data, you can see that the cells, solar cell itself are over here. So depending upon how much electricity this particular panel, which is placed on below this round ball, we can find out the what you call it as the intensity over here. So this is the schematic. So instead of this stress paper, you can put any light sensor, or solar cell itself is a light sensor, so you can do that. So this glass sphere, you can have a track. You don't need a tracking over here. You can put it on the base. So trace paper will burn. If it is a solar cell, it will give you an electrical signal, and you can find out the sunshine hours there. So of course, for this and many, I'm going to use this particular reference, PV Education. It's a very interesting site. You will find out so much there that it is beyond even the scope of this particular what you call it as syllabus. There are so many programs available, so much of data available, so you can literally get everything what you want from this, and this is freely available. Okay, so this even course is moreover inspired by this particular website. Again, you can get so many books as well. Okay, so thank you very much for this. So we have finished this particular topic. So we have finished our second topic, and tomorrow in the next lecture we are going to start with the silicon, how we get the silicon. Okay, so light has ended. Now we are going towards the material, then we will move towards electronics, and once we get that, we will move towards cells and modules. Once we get the cells and modules, we will go towards the economics, system design, and the other balance of system. Okay, so this is the path which I have already told you. So I think we will I will stop here, and any quick questions I will take it. Of course, I'll be uploading today's slides immediately after this lecture, so you can go through it and you can try to understand. So if there are no questions, I will stop here. Thank you, and you can what you call you can enjoy the day. We will meet again, I think on Wednesday. Right? Thank you very much.